Istanbul. Thank you very much for coming. It's a pleasure to be here. What I can say is probably the best organized conference that we ever participate to. Before we start, let me introduce the reason why we're being here, which is basically our NFT project dedicated to bring the real fashion brands into NFT space. Right. After a bit of a technical disruption. And for those who never seen me in your life and don't know me, my name is Sypien. Again, I'm a DG. I'm the founder of Digimental Studio, which is London-based digital boutique for NFTs and the Web3, as well as a co-founder of Hype, which is pretty much the most oversubscribed NFT collection in this space now these days. Today, I'll be talking to you about launching a successful project, fashion project, NFT project in NFT space. However, many of those rules can be easily applied to any other project, as the expertise is not as different from the different subjects. It's just about the creative and the approach, about the niche, and your unique points that you decide to go with when you develop your own projects. Why fashion and why digital fashion? Why NFT in the fashion? As you can see, NFT and the fashion makes big headlines in these days. There is a lot of interest that comes from the luxury and the high fashion brands. People started to watch, and in space, people started to watch NFT. People see the whole movement of collectibles, of profile pictures, of people identifying themselves with their beloved characters, and now they want to dress them all. So, as we can see in here, there is a very, very lucrative piece of the cake, especially for a fashion sector in NFTs. As we can see, the prediction is simply 6.6 billion growth within the next 2 years, and then amplified by another up to 50 billions till 2030. Something went off, but the slide basically says many teams, many brands tried their strengths in NFT space, and they failed. Why have they failed? Well, the answer is very, very simple. As we look into the NFT projects in general, as we look into the space, we have to simply recognize the difference between the mindset between so-called traditional customer from the Web 2 and Web 3 persona, as we call them, holders, collectors, traders, investors. People need to understand that shifting one of Web 2 thinking into Web 3 is actually a hard piece of bread, and it doesn't come very, very often. Brands and the teams use their existing strengths and existing expertise about the people and the current target, which simply is not working because, within the NFT space, which is new and kind of overtaken by Gen Z, people have to talk to the Gen Z with an appropriate level and appropriate language without using so-called cringe, just to not scare them off. So where is the X factor? When you talk about the project in NFT space, there are a few things that you have to look into, and they are so-called the core ingredients, which is a strong creative. Obviously, strong creative is very important because we need to be unique. Knowing the NFT space, knowing that everything is open source, and it's just extremely easy to look into anyone else's work. We've got the copies of the copies of the copies coming with the market, just with the changing the little images. What you need then is a strong team. The strong team is, well, inevitable. You cannot replace the people with the exercise. Then you also need a strong community, which is one of the most important aspects of NFT space. You cannot create without the people that's going to be there for you, support you, and create the market at the same time. Also, we talk about the passion. I mean, it's probably worth to mention, passion and the luck. Many people forget about this in these days. They are just coming to the space, being driven by the very quick profit, And it's definitely not the way if you want to keep creating and developing the future. So starting with the strong creative, as I mentioned, you need to have your own unique approach. To be successful, do stuff differently, and evolve in the space, we cannot look at one of the others. We need to create and develop our own ideas and the passion. Well, another failure on the presentation, I don't know why, but the slide was basically saying, is the quantity on top over quality? Well, this is kind of a controversial topic. The reason why we've been so successful in this space and we set so many benchmarks around is because of the quality. We raised the bar up to the level where people said, this is something that you've never been shown before. This is a completely different approach for your marketing and for community. Very, very often, in opposite to that, people actually don't care about this quality that much. They just look about the other aspects in this space as the utilities or where the project is going, the whole of the roadmap. However, both of them comes together, and you can't deny the quality is always going to stand on top of the quantities. Well, the presentation it seems to be completely like off the peak. Don't know what's happened here. So, within those ingredients, as we are talking about, there is a bunch of the things, that needs to be to summarize, you being successful, talking about, the creative, the team, the whole idea, a bit of a lack. As you can see, to be successful, there is a certain kind of the layers, just like a cake, that you have to be successful in every single one of them. You have to keep developing and keep ticking those boxes, so everything at the end will come together and then just appear as the one big output, which is your project. The strong team. Why is the strong team so important for you to be successful in NFT space? It doesn't matter if you develop a fashion project or anything else. It's important because you need to have a people that stands behind, people who understand your vision, and people who are being capable to develop this vision. So from the investor, so-called collector holder point of view, when they will be checking what you're doing and who's involved, they will be definitely looking into the team because it's important. This is where people rely on, this is where people put their money. They will be checking out who stands behind and who has been trusted. And this, in traditional form, you can run the NFT project as a team, as a company, because, in other words, it's nothing else than a startup. You're going to have many of the people around. Obviously, there will be a core team that looks into the everyday struggles. There's going to be a bunch of people that work for specific sectors. So, speaking in this traditional way, we're going to have a development team as your core, your creatives, your designers, your developers, people who will be driving the marketing, as well as people who's going to stitch everything together, which is your production. Super important to keep things on track. However, on the other side, we've got this very much Web3 specific community team. As we said, as I mentioned previously, community is a big part of the space. Without the community, we don't exist. So it's important to look into your community managers, community coordinators, social media people, people who are going to drive the Discord for you, which is basically the hub and the epicenter for all of the project. This is where everything happens, as well as respected advisors from the space. Everything comes together as one big bunch of the people who drives the project and tries to create the future. Coming to the next part, which is obviously our community. I'm going to stop here for a second because whatever you do, it doesn't matter how exciting and amazing your project is. Without these people, you will not exist. The community is your bread and butter. So these guys, they define the market. When you talk about the community, without them, you don't exist. It's very important to curate them. From the business point of view and the aspects. If people, I don't know how many people is familiar with something called the V-curve, as basically the stages of project development. Starts with the creative, then goes to the production, and then at the end is the maintaining. Maintaining is your community, is the hardest work. You must be very active in this space. You must look after your people. Without your people, your project is not going to exist. That's pretty much it. Because we flown through those slides in extremely quick tempo without the descriptions, I'm just going to say, guys, it's not really possible to drive all of this conversation and tell you how to do successful stuff within the 15 minutes. We're going to be around. If you feel like you want to approach and have a chat with us, talk about the early stages, talk about the production, talk about the other stages of the projects, then please come approach us. Let's have a talk. Thank you very much.